All right, so I just finished the video kind of going through the VR app version of CSpresso, the binary math level for computer science education. And I kind of did the walkthrough in Rift, and I told you how to build, and you can sideload it onto the Quest. Now I'm going to go through and just do a quick walkthrough of all the pieces for the AR app that's meant to accompany a textbook. And so let me go through how it's pieced together in Unity. Let me show you kind of what this textbook ended up looking like, and then I'm going to actually record myself using the phone app, the AR app on Android, with the actual textbook. So there'll be two parts to this video. I'm just going to put them together into one. Anyway, so here's actually the images from the book that we used at Oculus Connect. These are just all the spreads. I did end up cutting out the half sections, the pages that are AR enabled later on. Like I cropped off this right side, and I kind of explained that these are printed out at 12-inch by 12-inch photo books. And in the GitHub README, I kind of explained if you did want to test it out, you could try printing them out on an 8.5 by 11 paper. They're going to be much smaller. I don't know if they'll track that well, but the way I was testing anyway is you can bring them into Photoshop, scale them down from 12 by 12 to 11 by 11, create a new Photoshop doc. That's 8 by 11, a standard piece of paper, do landscape, and then place the image in, center it up at the top, and you print it out. Basically, you're getting the top 8 inches of it, and then move it and align it with the bottom and print it out again. So then you get the bottom 8 inches. You kind of lay the two prints on top of each other, and you'll get an 11 by 11. When I do the second part of this, and I'm just capturing myself with the book, I have some of the old printouts. I'll show them quickly, so that with an 11 by 11 black and white, you'll get good tracking as the book prints. So actually, while I'm here, here's the README. We kind of explained how we did our user testing with the VR. It worked. It was just as effective as a teacher-led instruction. And then we kind of acclimated the VR experience. We took all the content, and then we said, okay, what would it be like to do if these textbooks in the future are AR enabled, and there's a standard textbook section, and at the end, maybe along with multiple choice questions or some exercises, there's these interactive exercises. So to see if you understood the readings, you can then do this type of interactive simulations on your phone with the 3D models on top of your book to walk through, the abstract knowledge in a more concrete way. These links are still heavily focused on VR, and they're still out of date for VR. Over these next coming weeks, we'll have to update them all and include, we kind of did the AR app really fast. You see here, it was under a month. It was like a 3-week, and it came out great, but we didn't document anything, so you got to go back and document it. And it just says that I put the APK build file right at the root of assets. So if you download this off GitHub, you have the APK right there. You can build to your phone, and then I kind of explained how to get a best print out the 11 by 11s and where I put the pages. Then I explained where the Unity scene is and the main scripts in Unity. So let me bring Unity back, and then let me just wrap up here. So I'm going to show these pages of the book, but I think it's important just quickly to note that we did do a user study, and we're actually following up with a larger one. But we did see that the control group with traditional teacher-led instruction and the VR group ended up, beginning their pre-test showed that they knew nothing about binary math. And the post with analysis showed that there was both groups learned the same amount. There's no statistical difference. And then I think what's of more interest is we interviewed the students and found some key takeaways to improve our UX experience. our user experience. And we started pulling a lot of data off the headsets, tracking the heads, position rotation, tracking the hands, how long they took to get through each of the 7 tasks, where they were moving, which stations they were kind of sitting at longest. So here's I'm doing the tutorial in the middle. Here's the task station up here, the number station, the shape station, the color station, and then the output station. So this is them doing task 1, task 3, much tighter walk loops. This is a 20 by 20 foot. It's almost like a top-down view of it. And you can see that they kind of understood what they were doing, and their movements between the stations got cleaner. Task 7 got a lot harder, so you can see that they had to go back and forth a little bit more. But anyway, we'll have to get that data cleaned up. But I wanted to say that this is the textbook. So basically it explains the textbook, and then there's a story explaining this interactive experience that you're going to go through to make it a more engaging experience for middle school and high school students. And then there's the actual first page of the AR-enabled textbook, where on the left we start the story off. We're kind of explaining how you're going to start and use the app. And the phone is always centered up on the right side. So you're kind of reading on the left and then interacting with the exercises on the right, and the 3D models appear. So we have a large tracker on the top. This lets me know what page we're on. And then we have our interactives down here. In this case, we just have 1 bit. And then we use a playing card, which I'll show you later, that when this is tracking this, we know that we're on this page and that the phone is zoomed up on this page well enough to see this, that when the interactive tracker is on and off, that I know that the user is intentionally turning it on and off because this large tracker is telling me that we're on the page correctly. So in the first page, we're just training them how to turn this bit on and off. Just a general use case like this. There's going to be this glowing green area on top, and how to interact with the 3D model that appears over here. And so here's like the tutorial, and here's like the first bit. This is the cookie bit. And we actually show a 0 and a 1 and ask you to turn it on and off. And here's the number station. We have 3 bits. So if you remember in the VR video, there's bit 1, 2, and 3. And this is a 4, a 2, and a 1. And actually, I didn't even need that little legend that was on the number station because just interacting with, they have these big numbers, and on the UI, the total is there. So it's actually just by exploration of these bits, you can learn how the addition is working. Then we have the shape station, which had just 2 bits, and there's a list of 4. And the list is actually large enough on the 3D model where I didn't need to show it anywhere else. We have the color station, RGB, 3 bits. Very similar to number station, but the knowledge is a bit more abstracted. You don't have the list of numbers right there. You kind of have to remember your exercises and transfer that knowledge over. And that's just where we got to for the OC6 demo. I still need to finish the color station page and then wrap it up. The output stage is just like a thank you, congratulations, and kind of shows the whole stage, all the 3D models, and wraps up the experience. Just a quick note before I forget, the experience in AR is a little different than VR, where we're not cycling all the stations per task. We're focusing on one station in a series of exercises. So the number station, it gets more complicated, like give me a 1. Then you have to submit your answer, cover up the correct trackers, and uncover the ones to get the correct number. And then I'll ask you for a series of give me 1, 2, 4, 6, or what have you. Then if you understood the number station, we move on. I say give me a series of shapes, and then give me a series of colors, and then congratulations. So those, while showing you that real quickly, I wanted to show you that in here, these are the large format versions of the right page. So you can do that little printing setup I talked about. Print the top and then the bottom and lay them on top of each other, and you'll get a reproduction at 11 inches by 11 inches. And while we're in the project, we just have some animations here for Eggy. I mean, the core of it is I'll just shrink this all up. I put the APK at the root. Third-party assets is all the Google AR Core stuff. And the image database So underneath here, no, not the PSDs. Here's here's the image database. We have all the major stations. We have the 3 trackers that I reuse on the other pages, and that's what these JPEGs, these images are right here. I'm going to shrink that up, and then you have materials, models, prefabs. You only have one scene. That's the AR page test. And so probably of interest would be the scripts. We have our managers, our trackers. These are these transitions like the fade outs, fade ins, and the 3D models scaling up and down. And we have prefabs. The tracked image is the big one you want to look at. So the core of the code, this is the AR book page test scene. This is what the UI looks like. And my little text box on the bottom. But the core of the code is here, the application manager. So we kind of have our model view controller. So we got the view, the controller, model state, the manager. And this was kind of, I started with the Google AR Core augmented image example scene, and that's what this tracking controller is coming from. And then kind of built the rest of this around that. So this tracking controller and this tracked image is like directly the design that they were using in their example. So this kind of sets the state, keeps track of where we are. This is keeping track of the UI and all the text at the bottom. And this one is just looking, should we be tracking? And if we found a tracker, then we spawn or we instantiate tracked image. And this one takes, the tracked image is actually a pretty substantial functionality on this app. He does a lot when this script gets spawned, and he figures out what prefabs he should be setting up. And then the prefabs themselves have, let me see which one. So we have Eggy Interactive. I think this is this is Eggy from page 1. So besides just the model information, no, Eggy first page. This is it, yeah. So the models are underneath, and we have these transitions where they kind of scale up and down, and he's keeping he's tracking the page or what's happening. And then he's as a companion on the other, so number station. So we have a little Eggy on the side. He glows green when the station's tracking, and red when he's not. And I'll show you that in the app. But there's a script of the base is just keeping track of the flow of information really coming from these bits. So we have the candy bit, the coffee bit, and the cookie bit, and they have their own scripts running there. So if you understand that the app's kind of managed at this point, and then all the kind of interactives, the point of contact with the user is kind of flowing through tracked image, and then up through either the bits that the user's interacting with are the stations themselves. And so all these scripts, a majority of the contents actually create at runtime. But let's see, app manager, tracking control. Yeah, so we have the AR core device. So this is all the Google scripts. I didn't change anything here. And then we have our UI right here. So let's see, on the top left here, this button, this lets you know if you're actually tracking. If out in the scene, the app is looking for some type of target to start the next experience. If we found something, this whole highlight turns green. Now just ramp it up real quick. So it turns green, and it lets you show. Then the reset tracking button gets highlighted. So this is a nice feature because the tracking gets a little unstable. The 3D models might not, or the little green outlines around the bits don't get situated nicely on top. You just hit that, and everything gets reset. So especially as it gets running a little bit later, and the phone's running, and the user is kind of panning or moving the phone around, it gets the AR algorithms get much better at reading the targets, the images on the page. But anyway, you hit this button if you're scanning. If you have found something, this will be green. The whole instructions kind of walks you through it. And just later on, if it ever gets messed up, you just hit this. It's fine. There's a continue button. You get instructions down here, and then this will highlight when it's time to move on. And then this whole right side is just when you're doing exercises. So if I'm running a number page and I'm asking you for a 3 or a 4, this will show up here. And then whatever you have turned on and off will show here. And when you're correct, you have to hit submit, just to reinforce that, all the images that are being tracked are correct and you really think that this is your answer. All right, this is a continuation of the video. This is the book we made. There's a making of book. And this book has the development blog, the user study, data analysis section, and then our sample textbook that's AR enabled. So somehow we'll probably have to get these images up so that maybe in a photo gallery or a website or something. But we just go through all the design workflows that we went through. Why are we making this? How to design this as an educational experience. How to make use of the 20-foot by 20-foot space. That was the primary goal of using the Quest. How to make abstract learning concepts incorporate physical movement to help understand the learning objective. How to use like repetitive tasks like pulling levers for bits and binary math, and like kind of try to incorporate muscle memory into learning the concept. And so we kind of laid out all of our prototyping, our low fidelity prototyping, leading into like final resolution models, the industrial designer leading into the game, the industrial designer leading to the game modeler. And then our next level, bubble sort, which we're going to be doing a low fidelity prototype and user testing in late November to prove that this concept works, so that then we confirm that we should clean up the UX flows and the 3D models. And we actually did user testing on the Quest app. So here we are with middle school and high school students. And then the data analysis. I talked about this in the other video and kind of showed it, but showing that the learning results, that it did impact. A 15-minute session in VR was just as good as instructor-led lecture. Going through the interviews of the subjects afterwards, and then pulling the headset and hand controller data off, and then doing some analysis and graph plots on it. So we have to make this data more readily available, but at least here with the video, we kind of showed off the aspects before what this really is about, the AR textbook. So again, we have an intro. Why are we doing this? We spent a lot of time with the VR experience, and we wanted to show what it would also be like incorporated into a textbook or a print format AR experience. So again, it would be a regular textbook chapter that's very basic, just like a computer science book, and like a little section at the end that's more of like an interactive learning session. So here's the story that leads you in, here are the characters, and then here's where the AR session starts. So I have the phone set up on a tripod. It's just easier so you don't have to hold it the whole time. But you read the left page of the book, and I'm always going to frame up on the right-hand side, which is where the tracking images are and the interactions occur. And so these are the little cards that are meant to reveal the bit or have it tracked by the AR app, and then cover it, meaning the sugar goblin is eating the cookie, the bit is off, the power is not going to the station, or when you reveal it, the power is going. So if you look through the phone, you see that our UI is kind of angled with the page in perspective. And so you have your intro text at the bottom, and all the other UI buttons are turned off at the moment, just except the continue button. So I'll say, yes, that's great, let's continue. And it just gives you talks about tracking a little bit and lets you know that there's this reset tracking button, and I'll use this later on. So let's continue. And notice that the scanning icon is blinking at the top. That means it's trying to find the page. So it's saying move close to Eggy. So since the app just started, we kind of have to move the phone around a little bit, or maybe even get close to the Eggy image. And there, we found them. And so the 3D model came up. And since the phone is moving back and forth, I'm just going to reset the tracking. And so there he is sitting on the page. I'll just move the phone up a little bit and reset the tracking. So there he is. So he's sitting on top of the main tracker. This lets us know what the page is. And so now we see the left-hand side is like glowing. That means we're tracking something. And there's more explanations at the bottom. And so we're going to click continue. Oh, he's saying that you can spin me around. So the 3D models, we want to make them a little interactive. So you want to view it at different angles. You can take the phone and zoom up on them. Just pull back a little bit. It's a little blurry. And then I'm going to continue.
Light is in the way.
And so, yeah, scanner's going to activate again, and it's going to look for the cookie bit at the bottom, or the candy bit, and it found it. And now it's glowing green, meaning we're tracking it, and that we can interact with it. And it's telling you if it's red, if it's not tracking, green if it's tracking, and if it's not tracking, move the phone around a little bit, and you should get a good track on it. So you can notice it's offset a little bit. I'll just reset the tracker. And now they're centered up on their graphics, their image. And then it's saying frame up on my image, meaning me, the Eggy, and his belt will glow green. So it's glowing green. So the tracker image at the bottom has a green overlay saying that we see it and it's tracking successfully. Now Eggy has his belt, his midsection is glowing green. And if you kind of miss his tracking, he'll glow red. His belt will. And we'll see that later on. So now we have a little bit of knowledge about the candy bit. So here's the end of the Eggy page, and so it gives you a little bit of knowledge about a bit, a counting unit. It's kind of like digits for humans, and then we're gonna flip the page over to do the next page. So here we have the tutorial station. You see that it kind of picked up that tracking image really fast. These tracking images are getting at 100%. Eggy was, we were having some issues. He was at like 95% quality as a tracking image. But you said that the tutorial station came up, and that Eggy is the kind of companion with it. And Eggy is green. His belt is green, meaning that we're tracking the station, and you can spin it around if you care to. So we're gonna tap continue so that we can scan the cookie bit, and there we go. So the cookie bit got scanned, it turns green, and now this time we have a state connected to it. There's a 0 and a 1, and since he's getting tracking off a little bit, I'm going to reset the tracking. So since the main station is tracking, we know the page, and now the bit is tracking together. Now the bit's turned on and it's showing its one state, and it's saying, hey, we're going to start to play our game. We have these little cards which have an image of the sugar goblin, and when the sugar goblin is on top of a tracker, he's like eating it. So he's eating the cookie. The bit's not turned on. It's red and it's showing 0. And on the right hand side, you can see that we're currently set to off. So now we're talking about that these bits actually control the station. And if you see the station it says off on its little sign. I'm just going to move the phone back and forth a little bit, see if it kind of picks up a better tracking. There's a little like wobble to it. Oh well. So the station says off, it's red, and the bit is off. So the bit says 0, and now the station says it's off. So we'll continue on. And it says, all right, now we're going to start giving you goals. We're going to have some exercises. So the goal is to turn the station on. So you see that Eggy's waistband is green, meaning we're tracking the station. And if we show the bit back again, to get a little time, or maybe I'm going to zoom up on it. There we go. So we see we're tracking the bit now in the station. So the bit is green, it's 1. And so that means that the station is on. So we have on and on. So if I make it off, see that we're currently on off, the station's off, and we're trying to get it on. So if I reveal the bit again, let me just zoom up on it. There we go. We now have it's on. So I'm going to press the submit button that this is my answer, and it was correct. And so now we have some more explanations. Here we're just learning to try to turn the station on and off to make sure that you understand the core mechanic. So on and off. I'm going to shrink the tripod a little bit. It'll read the image without me having to frame up on it. Let me see. There we go. Now you still have to move the phone closer to read the bit. All right. At the demo, it was actually reading it without taking off the tripod, but it's all right. So we finished that page and we learned a little bit more about how bits can represent larger numbers, and we're going to go to the number station. And so this is the most complicated page, this and the color station, because there's 3 bits. So we got to zoom up. You see the number station. Let's set the phone back so it frames up the page. So now we have Eggy showing you that the number station is being tracked. So it's the same model from the VR app. And now there's some talk about 3 bits. We can represent numbers 0 to 7, powers of 2. So we'll go forward. And so now it says it wants to scan the coffee bit. So please zoom in on the coffee bit. So there, it grabbed the coffee bit. So we got a 1. Coffee can be on and off, or can be 0 and 1. So now we go to the cookie bit, which can be 0 or 2. The 2 to the 1. So if I just move the phone to it. So tracking's off a little bit. I'm going to reset it. Everything frames up nicely. So now we have 2 and 1s that we can play with. And the total is 3 on the right. Let's go forward. And now we have the last one, candy bit. I'm just going to zoom up on him. So notice I lost tracking on the coffee as I zoomed over to him. So I'm just going to move the phone back and forth in there. So now we got 4 trackers going. I'm going to reset the tracking. So we have the station tracking to know what page we're at, and that we know that the interactive session is going. We have 3 bits, the 1, the 2, and the 4, and they're all being tracked, so they're all on. So now our total is 7 on the right. So now it just says, hey, try play around with it, see if you can turn bits on and off. So let me see if I can get them to turn off. So I got the 2 off. So now our total's 5. Let's see if I can get the 1 bit off. 1 bit was off, now we got 4. And I got them all off. I got 0. And let's see if I can pull that one off. If it can, yep, track the 2. And I'll try pulling off the 1. I'll move the phone a little bit closer. There, we got a 3. And I'll pull the 4 off. There we go.
Tilt it so you can see the rest of the station.
Tilt it up.
So you can see the rest of the station before you turn off, before you go to the next page.
Alright. So now we can see more of the top of the station. So I'm going to zoom up on the numbers. I'm going to get them tracking again.
Maybe just put it back. I just wanted to see the...
Alright. So now we have 7. Let's go forward. So now we have some goals. Try and get 2. So I'm going to try and cover 1. You can only kind of turn 1 and off at a time. It's too much. So people at the demo I saw were like trying to put 2 cards down at the same time. And it was too complicated. So I trained them on just doing 1 card at a time for those who were doing that. So 2 was the correct answer. Now I'm going to pull the trackers off. Or pull the covers off. Get them tracking again. I'll reset the tracking. Now we're at 5. Oh, I'm at 7. I want to get 5. So I see that there's a 4 and a 1. And I'll cover the 2. And that's a 5. So that was great. Now it wants a 3. So I'll bring the 2 back. And get the 4 tracking. Get the 1 tracking. There we go. I'll cover the 4. And see if it can register. Sometimes you have to let it see it again and then cover it back up. There we go. We got 3. Alright. We're good. So notice every time I submit the answer, we're resetting the tracking also. So you see how stuff kind of pops back in the center of where it should be. So now I want to get a 6. So I'll cover up the 1. I'm just going to move it back and forth. Nope. It doesn't notice that it's covered. There we go. So now we have our 6. And we're done. So you fixed it, everything was great, and we'll need some additional animations or graphics or something to show that the station was fixed. But that was showing 4 trackers at once. So now we're moving on to the shape station. We have 2 trackers. So there we go. There's the shape station. Just gonna reset it. There we go. And now we start learning that yeah, we can represent numbers, but we can also represent lists of objects with the bits. Press continue. So now it wants to start scanning the interactives. So we stand for the cookie. There we go. And now we're seeing, now I'm doing 1 bit at a time. Try turning it on and off to see, because these numbers actually represent. If I zoom up on the station, you can see that there's a little legend, a little guide. And so 0, 0 equals cube, 0, 1 equals sphere, 1, 0 equals cone, and 1, 1 equals ring, or torus, or donut. I think I'm calling it a ring in this. But let me reset the tracking. So we're just messing with 1 bit. So basically we have 0, 1, which is sphere. And if I hide it, we have 0, 0, or cube. And that just shows you that you can mess around with the 1 bit. And so let's scan the next one, the candy, which will be our left side, our left bit. So now we're picking up both, and Eggy's got a green belt, which means we're tracking the station. So everything's good. And we have a 1, 1. And if you remember, that means a ring. And so now the user's trained on this session. So I currently have a ring and I want a sphere. And the sphere is a 0, 1. And I'm reading off the list that's on the station. And see if I can get it to turn to 0. There we go. We have a sphere, 0, 1. So I'm going to take this off, reset the tracking. I got to scan them again. There we go. All right. So now they want a ring, which just happens to be 1, 1, and they're both on, so I'm good. Now give me a cone. A cone is a 1, 0. So I want a 0 on the right side. I got a 1, 0. That's a cone. Great. We're done with this page. So it was simpler than the number station, but we're moving off numbers. And so as the ideas get more abstract, we want to see if we can test that transfer of knowledge. So it's a little simpler. All right, now we moved on to the color station. And I don't know if I think for the demo we didn't, yeah. So here it says, all right, you scan the number station, it appears. Since this is the only thing on this page, I'll just zoom up on it. You can notice, if I get really close, there's a little legend on it. It's small, so for this page, we're going to have to figure out how to show the color legend. But for 3 bits, we can represent 8 different colors. And basically, there's a little title at the bottom saying, hey, thanks for the demo. And but we'll finish this page, and then we just have one more page, the output page. But that's the end of demoing the AR app. Thank you.